Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put your questions in the comments now so that I can answer your questions. In the last live, I was talking about answering the question, can you get a work permit now? And I went into great detail. Hi, Ira. I went into great detail about how I look at whether clients, especially those who have ended up overstaying their time or are in situations where they don't no longer have their papers, how is it that they can gain status here in the United States still? It's not there. It's not a situation where it's hopeless. There may be ways to be able to gain your status here again, but it's going to depend on your circumstances. So I went through a number of different ways. I did not get to answer a lot of questions because I was trying to get as much detail over to you as I could. So today I want to um, now turn it over to you to ask questions about you maybe the getting the work permit for yourself. You could ask me true or false questions or things that you've heard that you're trying to figure out if that's true or not. Because there's a lot of misinformation going out there. You can ask anything that's immigration related. So I'll be happy to answer those questions today because I went into great detail about the work permit, and I want to just get some follow-up questions on that or any other immigration questions that you have. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump on to, I see here, how long does a T visa take to get? So I'm seeing most cases are taking 1 year. However, we've seen it in as little as 6 months, decisions in as little as 6 months, and as long as a year and a half. It just depends on the complexity of the case. It depends on maybe if the immigration service has additional questions, and it even depends on the process because we do have a preparation process where we have to make sure that we compile all the evidence necessary to get the T status. Now, for those of you who are just listening, you've never heard me talk about the T status. I know you're asking, what is the T status? So the T status is a form of relief granted by the Immigration Service for victims of trafficking. Victims of trafficking could be labor and sex trafficking. Now, I want you to open up your minds because sometimes what happens is you hear trafficking and you're like, nah, that's not for me. Um, and unfortunately, people are going through trafficking and they themselves don't even realize that they qualify for relief because many people are not educated about what trafficking is. Now, if you're in a situation, labor trafficking isn't about, holding you holding you under threats or holding you, restraining you to force you to work. And sex trafficking isn't necessarily that. It is a form when you're forced, of course, to comply with an employer or any individual to do something you want them to do. But people have different methods to get people to do what they want them to do. It's not just by physical force or outright abuse. It can be through what is described under immigration law as coercion. And coercion comes in different forms. Coercion could be the whole process of underpaying you, maybe paying you so little that you really don't have, you're just busy trying to keep up with the work and get that little bit of money you're getting because they're underpaying you for the kind of work that you're doing to keep you oppressed, keep you compliant and restrained. Maybe you are being provided housing, but they're taking a lot of your money out for rent. Maybe they're holding your immigration status over your head. Maybe they're, mentioning about ICE. There was a case that I'm aware of that where the person capitalized on the fear that immigrants have in Florida right now and told the immigrant that do you know that citizens and residents can get paid for deporting an immigrant? And just based on saying that, it kept the immigrant in line and kept the immigrant from questioning that person that told them that, because now they're thinking they know I don't have my paper, so they can turn me in for that money. And that's exactly the intention of this individual. It could also be telling you to come work and they'll get you the green card. And then when you get here, there's no such thing that they did, and that was never their intention. So, and it's very, very common. You would be surprised. If you are without status here and you're listening to this, I know that most of you can relate in one way or the other to this kind of treatment, and especially if you've been here for a long time. So this is where I assist clients who have been victims of this kind of mistreatment to get the T status. All right, so I just explained to you T status. I'm going to move on to the other questions. I need help with a VAWA petition. Give us a call. The number on YouTube, Facebook is going across the screen right now next to the ST Law Office. Call that number. Scheduling coordinators are available to take your call and schedule an appointment so I can help you. Now, VAWA is where you're being mistreated by a citizen or resident spouse, a parent or a child, a citizen adult child, by the way, and you need to apply on your own without involving that relative. It is a confidential process. How to get the work permit if you don't overstay. So you do have to qualify the work permit. So one thing I don't want you to walk away from this live thinking is that the work permit is there to just be handed out like candy, right? That's not the purpose of the work permit. So if you're here and you're here on a visitor's visa, you enter the country, giving the immigration service the impression and represented through having your visa that you are coming here to visit and not work. And so you don't qualify for the work permit. If you would like to work here, you would need to find an employer who can petition for you or sponsor you for a visa, a work visa, before before you overstay. And that is always the best way to do it, because then you're not dealing with all the issues that comes with being undocumented. However, this doesn't change the fact that people are here in this crisis and they do need assistance. So it's whether you won't necessarily qualify for the work permit just by being here, but you may qualify for the work visa, and if whether you qualify for the work permit, it's going to depend on your circumstances. Okay, my brother has some disabilities, currently have a 10-year visa. Okay, so go ahead and call the office and we can talk. As a person on an F1 status, can I travel to US territories with my US driver's license and be able to enter back the US on the driver's license? So usually you do not need a passport to travel from within the US, which does include the territories of Puerto Rico, US Virgin Islands. And Hawaii is considered a state, but it is off the coast of the mainland, and you can travel there as well. So fly out of out off of the mainland into Hawaii and not need a passport. You can, but of course, you have to have valid identification. If you have a valid driver's license that you can travel on, that's acceptable too. However, I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what the current situation is with your F1 status, or if you have any additional limits. This is where it's very important to consult with an attorney before you do anything. So make sure you make that investment. So I did see someone here say $300 for an appointment, though. So the appointment is not $300. You may be referring to another law firm, maybe, or maybe you never called. The appointment is $150 for the time that I will take to do a detailed evaluation of your case. So if you're married and your spouse is mistreating you, can you file for VAWA even if they didn't start any paperwork? Yes, absolutely. The It's more common actually for me to file it from scratch for my clients. So you don't have to have any current paperwork pending to apply for this. So absolutely, you qualify. Okay, I did have a work permit, which it did expire in August. Can I get another work permit? It depends. Do you have a process that's currently pending? If you do, then you may be able to renew it. But if you say they denied your paperwork, once they deny your paperwork, that work permit is no longer valid. Good morning. My name, please. Okay, so your spouse is a green card holder. We submit I-130 2 years ago, no approval. Please, what's going on? I wouldn't be able to tell you what's going on. This is where it's very important to schedule an appointment. Sometimes it does take a while. I don't know if there are some issues. You may have to contact them directly to see if they've sent you a request for evidence. But you would have to talk in a consultation to be able for us to understand what's going on. Consular processing time for Nigeria, a year and a half to 2 years. So I answered that. All right, let's go here onto TikTok and so I answered how long does it take USCIS to make decisions after USCIS received RFE for medical? So I've seen it in as little as 4 weeks to get the decision back, and I have seen it as long as a few months. So it just depends on the workload of the specific office that's processing the case. Do you do VAWA? Yes, absolutely. That's one of our main case types. I received my work permit over 1 year now. Since I have not heard my anything on the green card. So it depends. I don't know what case type you have. It really depends. The length of time it takes to hear back about the green card depends on a number of factors. Here I don't see what case it is, what you're applying for, and so forth. But not hearing from them for a year is not something that's unusual. But to be able to tell you whether there is something that you should be concerned about, that's going to definitely require a consultation. How long does it normally take to get a U visa certificate? So to get the U visa certification, the police department or law enforcement agency, that could be Department of Labor, that could be the police, that could be the FBI, that could be so many different agencies. And it's going to depend on how the agencies processes these types of requests. You have some offices, like for example, some police departments that they may be in an area that they don't get these requests very often, and it takes a little more back and forth for them to understand what's going on and for them to consider doing the U visa certification. So it's completely there's no documented processing times for the U visa certification process. That's done before you submit it to the immigration service. Now, once it gets to the immigration service, right now I'm seeing about 2 years to 2.5 years for them to process the U visa application. Right now, they're putting individuals into deferred action if they find that you've passed a background check and everything checks out with your application. And when I say everything checks out, you seem to meet all the requirements of the application process. You've submitted a complete application with the certification and done the background check. If you've done that, then they will go ahead and approve you for deferred action. And that means every few years you will be given a work permit that you'd have to just keep renewing until you get the U visa. The U visa is taking up to from 7 to 10 years to get. But the benefit is that if you have no other options at all, the U visa is an eventual path to gaining status, and you can have deferred action while you wait. It's just you have to have some patience at first to wait for the deferred action. So someone was shooting at the cars traveling in. I was not shot. I'm so sorry that happened. That must have been very scary and traumatic. Can you get the U visa? So it's a possibility. No, it's really fact based, because a part of the requirements for the U visa is that you have to show that you have experience as a result of the crime. You have experienced um, physical or mental abuse. And so here, as long as it was reported to the police, you're currently cooperating with the police on this. It's a very serious crime to be the victim of a shooting. Whether you were shot or not, you could very well qualify for it. Hi there, Bharat. It's nice to see you. How long does it normally take to get a user? Okay, so I answered that. Hi there. Good morning, Lynn. It's nice to see you. Asylum was granted last year, January. Should I file for the green card? So they recently released some new regulations that do allow individuals, because when you apply for asylum after having continuous presence in the United States for 1 year, then you can apply for your green card. So usually that was applied after you got the asylum. However, they've recently released after Biden administration that if you've been waiting for more than a year for the asylum and now you've been granted asylum, you can move to apply for permanent residence based on that year of continuous presence, whether it was before you were granted the asylum or after. So always get legal advice though. This is where it's important to get legal advice so you can get an individual evaluation, because I'm not your attorney and I'm not telling you to go for the green card until you get that legal advice. You can always call the office schedule. We'll talk about your facts and determine whether it's right for you. Can they change my last name after divorce on employment authorization if there's nothing pending? So you can apply to have a change done. I mean, it's maybe more trouble than you really want right now, because contacting the immigration to make a change like that, you could be looking at a year and a half to God knows when to get something like that back. So you can always show proof of the divorce if you want the employer to use your original name, your name that you had before the marriage. Then you can always show the employer your divorce decree in addition to the employment authorization. Um, but it just depends on how badly you want that name taken off of the employment authorization. How long does my green card have to wait after divorce to get married? I mean, how long does my girlfriend have to wait after divorce to get married? There's no law that says you have to wait for a period. Um, I mean, other than if your girlfriend got her green card through a spouse, then if she gets married within 5 years of the getting the green card, so she gets divorced, get married, all of that happens within 5 years of the getting the green card, and she applies for you to get the green card, then there's a presumption that the marriage isn't real and they have to deny you. And this can open up a can of worms, as in they're going to review the past marriage plus the current marriage. So my answer here would be: is it advisable to wait for a little bit, or wait for a certain time to run, or is it advisable, or is there nothing that is of concern if you got married right away after the divorce? I've represented clients who have gotten married right after divorce, and they've been fine, but they didn't have that kind of concern where, the petitioner had the green card and was applying within 5 years of getting the green card, and divorcing, applying, and doing all of that within the 5 years of getting the green card. Just filed my asylum case in October. How long have to wait to get the work permit? You do have to wait until 150 days after the 150 days after the application has been submitted, then you're able to apply for the work permit. At the 180-day mark is when the immigration can legally issue your work permit. How long does the process take for a green card parent to file petition for a child under 21? So right now, they do have, I would say, anywhere from 2.5 years to 3 years. So right now, there was previously it was great because the they were current, meaning there was no wait list for children under 21 to apply for the green card through the green card holder parent. However, that has changed. So I believe in July or early August, they changed that to say that now anybody whose application was submitted on or before, so now they're on the date of September 1st, 2023. So anybody who submitted their application on or before that date can now apply for their adjustment of status or be processed for their green card at the embassy. Um, Now, what that means is I've been checking it because we do have clients now that have to wait until that their priority date comes up on the wait list. And so I've been checking it every month to see what they're processing, and what date they're processing. And they've been processing the same date for the past 2 months or 3 months. It has not changed. So you could be looking at an additional 6 months added to the process, 6 months to a year added to the process. So now you have to apply for the petition and then wait for your number on the wait list. So you could be looking at a year of waiting before they'll even process the green card. So that's the sad part about this. No, the good part: apply, 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 apply. Treat it with urgency because that wait list can only get longer. Remarried, can I apply for my new spouse as a citizen? Yes, you can. If you're a permanent resident, we need to talk to figure out what the timeline is on that. Can detention parole grant me the work permit? Not in on off itself. So as in you are released from detention. It depends on what kind of parole you are granted. Maybe coming out of detention, you were given a type of parole that possibly qualifies you for the work permit. And that's where I'd have to look to see under what regulations were you given parole. Because there's a conditional parole that in and of itself doesn't qualify you for the work permit. But there's also another type of parole that where it does allow you to get status. Not status, but the work permit or apply for it. Does a K-1 visa have an expiration date after approval? So yes, usually you have a time that you have to travel into the country with that K-1 visa. So you need to look to make sure that you stay within that time. Can I apply for my citizenship through me and my husband are separated? It depends. If you are subjected to mistreatment by your husband and your husband is a citizen or a resident, then you could apply for your own green card based on the mistreatment through VAWA. And we help our clients do that, so you can give us a call. All right. Let me see what questions we have here. Okay, my husband's daughter filed for him December last year. He got his work permit and social. How much longer he has to wait for the green card? So you're seeing anywhere a little over a year. So December, I'm seeing about a year, maybe a year and a half at most to get this. And she applied in December 2021, so that's definitely more than a year. So, processing times differ. I wouldn't know why, in your case, why it's taking so long. Most of my cases don't take this long, especially when it's a parent-child relationship. And so it would depend on what your situation is. I filed for a fee waiver on the I'm not sure if that's a I-485, and for green card together, what should I expect? So if this is VAWA for myself and for children, so I'm not sure what kind of application you file the fee waiver for. Now, I often just, if you need the fee waiver, fine, definitely. But before I let my clients know about the fee waiver. I also advise them about how much of a delay it can cause, especially when I do treat cases with urgency. We want to get the cases out ASAP. And so the fee waiver can add another, so I've seen it add an additional 5 months to cases because they tend to take their time, review the fee waiver, and then if they deny it, they send your whole package back and tell you now you have to send the fee in. So it can cause a substantial delay, and you have to decide whether it's worth it for that to happen. So it does take longer than the usual 2 weeks to get the receipt notice. I tend to see those take about 4 to 6 weeks to get the approved fee waiver and for them to start moving forward with the processing of the VAWA application with a fee waiver, or the VAWA green card application, so the I-485. All right. Can I start the naturalization process after 2.5 years of living in the US? So, the naturalization process is for green card holders who have The general rule is you have to be a green card holder for 5 years unless you're currently married to a citizen spouse and you've had the green card for at least 3 years. Then you can apply early based on your marriage to the US citizen. At that point, you can apply at the 2 year and 9 month mark, not at the 2.5 year mark. Okay, so Kenroy, go ahead, call the office, schedule your appointment ASAP. Right now, we're going into January, so there are limited spots because I do want to assist everyone. And we do want to start the year off helping as many individuals as we can. So you need to make sure, call the office. Don't wait because it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. So call, because if you think you're going to get an appointment this month, you unless somebody cancels, you wouldn't be able to get fit in for this month. So early next month could be the closest appointment, but if you wait and you call later on in December, you could be looking at February. So go ahead, schedule an appointment, call, schedule the appointment. I just have a general knowledge of my schedule. I just go day by day. I follow what the staff and scheduling coordinators say. And so they're really in charge of the calendar and they can tell you where they can fit you in. So call, schedule the appointment, don't wait. Hi, Ashiki, it's nice to see you. What crimes are covered under the U visa? So examples, it's not an exclusive list, but examples could be assault, robbery, domestic violence, stalking. Those are some examples. But keep in mind that if you've been the victim and you reported this to the police, you're cooperating with law enforcement, then it depends on what the nature of the crime is. If you experience mistreatment, physical or mental abuse as a result of the crime, then it could qualify as a crime for purposes of the U visa. How early can you put in your paperwork in after marriage? So you'll hear me talk about this all the time. And what I say is there's no law, but is it advisable to apply the day after you get married? I mean, I have applied very soon after my client's marriage. They got married, but they had a whole history that they could show together. If you just met your spouse, take the time to put your business together as a married couple. Make sure you can show where you're living, what you're doing, how you're planning to move forward with your lives as a couple before you send anything to immigration service. Because if you send an incomplete application, they will hold it against you and it will haunt you throughout the entire process. One thing I've seen is I've seen people go through this process and they get their work permit, get their travel document, and it just feels like it's all going to be so smooth and nice. And then you get that really horrible request for evidence and you don't know where to start. And that usually happens maybe a year later, maybe 8 months to a year later, when you had all your hopes high that everything was going well. And then you get hit with a very distressing request for evidence that is insinuating that they are not believing your marriage is real. So now you've already started out on a bad foot with the immigration. They already have a certain impression of your application. And so now you have to redeem yourself by presenting a good, solid request for evidence. That's usually sometimes where I come in with clients to be able to take over their case and do it properly. So, and that gets more expensive. So you don't want to be in that situation. So make sure that you don't get married and rush to apply for an application because being married alone, showing a marriage certificate is not going to get you the green card, and you will be in for a unpleasant surprise in the future. Right. Okay, I think I've reached the end of the questions. Um, How long after the approval notice do I get my green card? So you'd get it, I would say anywhere, I've seen it in 2 weeks. The card come in 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So it shouldn't be long after the approval. All right. So that's going to be it for me today. Thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate it. Happy Friday. I'll be back on Monday where we'll talk more about your questions. So, have a good weekend. Call now. The way you can get in touch with me to schedule your appointment is going to be by clicking on the link in the profile, and it's going to take you to a website where you can schedule your own appointment, or you can go to the website. You can learn more about me before you even call the office on the website. And when you call them, they will be more than happy to assist you with scheduling the appointment. Make sure you do it now because we are getting filled up, and that's only going to continue. So you want to get in where you can. Another thing to keep in mind is later on in December we'll be doing more promotions. We'll be handing out 10 free consultations, and we'll also be doing another discount program so that those of you who need to have that kind of access but you're trying to figure out your finances can have the opportunity to do that. I'll tell you later on. I'll make an announcement and I'll tell you later on how you can take advantage of that. So thanks so much for your support. Thanks for all these great questions. These have been good questions. I'll be back on Monday where we can continue talking, and I'll bring a topic, you bring your questions, and we'll talk it out. All right, have a good one. Bye bye.